Did I miss anyone? I think so. Okay, well, thanks for being brief, and we have plenty of time now for our demonstrator. Steven Barnard is with us tonight. Steven is a relatively new member of the club, right? But has been part of Capital Area Woodturners for a long time. Teaches at Nova Labs in Virginia. Steven's a retired carpenter, did a lot of high-end architectural work, and is now a very enthusiastic woodturner. And he's going to show us how he uses multi-axis turning to make a clock finial. Take it away.
All right, as you said, I'm Steven. Tonight, I'm going to show a process of turning multi-axis. We're going to turn this piece of, well, this club pays really well, so I was able to get some prime piece of pine here. But this was based off of a clock finial that I had seen. And I just always see things like this, and I want to try it. So I looked, I found some information, decided to try it, and I can pass this around if anybody wants to take a look at it. We're going to work on turning that body tonight, and you can do pretty much anything you want with them. It ends up, once we turn the body, we end up with two pieces. So you can take the leftover half and just play with them. You can make them any size. And you do not have to follow this pattern, this fin and ribbon pattern. You can, somebody had asked me about turning a, six-sided bowl that they had seen that was turned on the lathe. Well, this is a similar process, but I just use a different pattern, cut a different pattern on here. So we're not limited to this pattern alone. Now, we've been hearing all about all this precision. Well, unfortunately, I didn't even bring my tape measure, so now I got one. We're going to do this and have some fun. So I'm going to start out with just regular old block of wood. This was cube, 5 by 5 by 5. And we're going to turn it around, we're going to make some marks on it, and then we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. Most people who have turned multi-axis, you know, they're used to just adjusting the spindle. We're actually going to turn this 90 degrees, and we're going to spin it 3 more times past that one. So anytime anybody has any questions, feel free to just spit them out, yell at me.
Where does the clock come?
The black one was a clock finial. It was on top of an old antique clock. So that's why I called it a clock finial. So, all right. So we're going to get started. Now this, I hope it's not too boring for you. I'm going to try to move through it at a fairly quick pace because there's a lot of repetition. So we're going to make a lot of sawdust tonight, and I'm going to get going here. Okay, break out the tape measure. I want to mark center on this. Which way is this one?
Yeah, thank you.
Save that, we're going to need it. So like anything in wood turning or even woodworking, you can be as precise as you want to be. There's some guys that just enjoy all that precision, and there's a time and place for all that, but tonight we're just going to try to make this kind of fun. So I'm going to get my length right here. I'm going to divide this up in 4 axes.
So it's interesting that you fold the paper instead of measuring. Fitting is always more accurate than measuring. As long as it fits.
Yeah, there's any number of ways to skin a cat. So, and I just thought it might be fun to kind of walk through this process like this. The only thing that I did in advance was knock the corners off my cube, and I did drill a 1/4-inch hole here. And that's, as you look at those, you'll see they're mounted. So now I'll just get my layout. Hey, we meet halfway close. So I'm going to drill a series of holes because I'm going to be cutting into this, and the holes will guide me. And if you take your time, put this in a V block over to the drill press, you'll be much more accurate, but we will be close enough for the fun. I'm just gonna try to aim straight in towards center.
Does it matter the depth?
No, because we're gonna cut this in half. So if you're not deep enough, you can lose your hose. And for me, they're the visual guide. Now, if we're going to make a bowl or something, I wouldn't drill any of these. We just measure and mark. All right, so we are set. Now comes the fun part. All right, we're pretty good. So, now usually I like to make things like this out of some real nice, tight, hard maple, something that turns really well. I'm going to try not to get a bunch of chip out on this first cut because we're going in grain, in grain, in grain. So, we're just going to bring this end around. Anybody that's done any multi-axis, you're familiar with looking for the shadow. This first one's the hardest one for me to see. After we get this first rough cut down, it gets easier and easier, especially as we move in to the next layers. So I'm actually looking up top more than I am down low where my tool is. So we have a long way to go on this first round. So I'm getting close, if I'm not. So you can see the flat spots. This side, I'm off-centered a little bit. So I'm going to turn both of these down to where they meet and try to get this thing back into round. So I've crossed my dot, and I've crossed my dot. So 1 down, 2, 3, 4. So this is very repetitious. Now, if you have the record a video option on your phone and you adjust the speed, it really makes an interesting video because the wings will look like they're flipping back and forth because of the frame rate of the recording. And I don't know how well you can see it now, but you see the 2 humps, the point, and the shadow of the ball in here. So next cut, same thing, just start working down. Try not to chip up this pine too bad. Now, getting pretty close. I think I might have to go just, looks a little bit more. I got one good chip out there, but we're going to clean all that up in our future passes.
What speed are you turning?
1300. So, I got through here. I'm missing this line just a little bit. So I'm going to go another couple passes. So this line that I drew, it has my circles on each side. I'm which way is the camera? So right here, I've actually hit these where I drilled in this pencil line on there and there. This side's still missing a little bit.
You want it to meet at the hole.
Right, I'm gonna use this as a visual guide. Because I'm not gonna sit here with the calipers and measure and mark, and we're gonna just have some fun. We're just gonna turn this. So now I did 1, 2, I'm gonna go to 3. And like I said, this is a little bit repetitious. And once we get it all down to the rough point, it just keeps getting easier and easier. Now if you see my 2 little shadow wings, they're much smaller. So okay, so got just a little more to go. I'm stopped here and here on this cut. So I'm gonna go a little more. Okay, now I can see my indents from my drive spur, so it tells me I need to rotate this way. If I come around here, I'm back in the holes I've already started with. So
You're cutting the same amount for each hole set.
I'm trying to, like I said, if you were going to make this for an heirloom piece, you'd probably want to do a lot of measuring, make a template, make sure all your coves are the same. But we're here for fun tonight. We're just going to make a pile of chips.
Is there a reason why you don't ride the bevel of the bowl gouge? You're using the bowl gouge more as a scraper.
Yeah,
A lot of tear out.
yeah, I'm not worried about it right now. I'm just trying to rip this wood off. Usually when I'm woodworking, I developed a habit of the way I was taught, and working is coarse, medium, fine, refine. Right now, I'm just ripping wood off.
Okay.
You know, so, yeah, I could get up higher. And this is pretty easy for me to see the shadow and just back and forth. Okay, I need to go just a hair deeper. All right, our first step is done. So now we have us roughly a spear with all our different facets on here. So we can start back over again. Now we're going to start a little bit nicer cut. And we're going to start making some coves, because that's the pattern I'm going to put into these. So if I look at these ridges and just kind of line them up, that helps give me a reference, and we can refine that later. So I made my pencil marks. I should be able to see those. Now I'm just going to kind of So when I look at this, what I'm looking for, I'm just making a cove. I can make them as deep as I want, shallow. We could just put a V-cut in here and end up with a similar pattern. And I'm looking to see if I'm about centered with my holes. So right now, it's not bad. So anyway, repetition is the key. We'll do this 3 more times. So like I said, I hope you guys don't get bored on this. It's very repetitious, but it's kind of fun to make and to use this process to turn different things and use it to think about what you could do, how you can adjust it, how you can make it suit your purpose. Pencil mark very deep.
If you wanted to do this really accurate, would you measure or make templates for it?
Usually if I'm turning for like legs or anything, I usually use the calipers and measurements. And, you know, if we get a big scraper, we can use it as a guide. There's a lot of ways, but if I'm making legs or anything, I like to measure. I'd get the calipers and try to get them all the same diameter. And yeah. So it really comes down to what you're comfortable with, what you like to do. So now when I look up here where they cross, this one I'm working on needs to go a little bit deeper because it's, I don't know if that's showing on the camera. You can see the cut jumping here. So we'll go a little bit deeper. Maybe just a little bit. And, you know, you can do 100 people, and I'll tell you, everything's different. You may have noticed how low I am. I just kind of like that, use my hips, and it's just something I'm comfortable with. There's other people that'll be up here like this. How you turn, you need to practice and develop your style, your method. So I'm going to widen this right side just a little bit. And then I'm going to take myself a little past, deeper. And I'm not, you know, I could sit here and make me a little gauge and measure that. Now we're fairly close, maybe just a little bit higher, so I'm gonna do one more pass. All right, we're pretty good. Hopefully this can be seen on the camera there. They're pretty good right there. Right there. So, we're going to turn back to our hose. The first time I did this, I thought it'd be really slick. Put a piece of tape here, mark the width of my cove. Well, if you notice how much that just shifted, so after you start going in, dropping into those coves, then you have to shift the rest over. But like I said, I'm thinking tonight we just have a little fun. We turn this, we look at how it comes out, and you guys can critique me later. You know,
You're turning this out of one piece. Have you ever segmented it, that you have just side grain all the way around?
not this shape. You know, so, because when I actually made, the one that got passed around, the little black one, was like the prototype. It's actually made out of basswood, just because I had a big chunk and, you know, but, you know, when you're wanting nice grain and everything, and that's part of why I dyed that one black, because it was basswood, it just had no appeal to it. So anyway, so we're getting there, we're starting to see our shape. So, check my depth. I need to go a little more, just a little more. And my width, it doesn't look bad, so. This is not too bad. They're pretty much pointing at each other. I have something that I marked as offset. I don't know if you can see this. These two lines are not pointing dead center of the middle. They're just offset. But so are these two. This one is probably the closest. But, all right, so we're getting down. And I do have flats, but we'll take care of those in a minute. So we just keep rotating this around, very repetitious. Okay, again, we're about that far off. So we want to go down just another little bit. Now for Home Depot construction grade lumber, we're getting some fairly clean cuts now. But now I can see this one, I need to widen this one. It's too steep on this side. So I'm going to give it another cut. So it's at this point we can make some decisions whether we want to deepen this, whether we want more curve, what do we want to do with this. If we had drawn this design out in the first place, we could measure whatever we're copying, we could make our cuts, we could set our depth. So for tonight, we're just going to kind of look at this. It's not looking bad. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mark for my little ribbon. And I'm just going to make me a mark to give me a visual aid. So get my, we should have brought that pipe. So I'm just going to cut in on those lines, holding this about a 45, and then I'm going to roll it around to kind of shape my fins. It's just square scraper. Yeah. So I'm going to come in on the left side line, just lightly, just kind of give myself. Now I'm just going to roll around gently because we're working with this soft pine. And that gives me this lower shape. Now I'm going to try it over here. Do the same thing. Try to kind of eyeball the depth and just slowly roll around to about the same angle. And I got a little flat spot. Smooth that out. This one looks a little bit steeper. Can take a little more off. So now I end up with this. And this ribbon is a little bit higher than I want it at the moment. But what I was watching is my wings, and I'm bringing them out. So I'm going to come back in with my round nose scraper, my little one, and just kind of take that down and try to even it out a little bit. So just take a height that I think I like. Okay, so you start to see the detail. And by drilling these by hand, the holes are going in different angles. So if you notice, this hole is actually on the edge of the ribbon. This one's dead center. This is where, the precision, the measurements, drilling this on the drill press with the V blocks, we can get nice straight holes. But I'm going to cut that out, and as we rotate it around, most people are not going to be able to see that. Us woodturners, us woodworkers, we're our own worst critics. We look at every imperfection, and what I keep trying to teach the new guys that I teach the intro to lathe is just enjoy it, have fun. You're going to see that, you're going to hand it to somebody else, and they're going to go, wow, that's amazing, how did you do that? So now, One down, 3 more to go.
So you, on that ribbon, you put a V cut right in the middle of the ribbon?
No, I offset the hole. I'll show you. I'll mark this one again. So I have my hole, and on each side of the hole, I'm just making a pencil mark that just helps me to see where that's at. And so I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not.
That's the guide to your
So the corner of my scraper is going to go in right there, just about a 45. And then I'm just going to round it over.
So what are you gonna do with the part that's left, the ribbon? Is that, are you gonna eliminate that, or?
No, we're going to keep that so that it becomes a part of the design. This one's much wider ribbon, which makes you have to have a bigger flat spot. But you'll end up with these fins and a ribbon in the middle. So that's what we're working on right now, trying to follow this repetition over and over. So now with the pencil marks, I can see my line where my hole was. So I'm going to try to go in where my corner's about 45 degrees and just cut in. Did you guys bring a baseball glove? So cut in, just kind of round that off. Do this side. Now, this side needs to be a little bit deeper. And now I'm going to flatten my ribbon out, kind of make it even on both sides, where it just looks even. And I'm looking at how they meet. They're pretty good for height. I ended up making this ribbon a little bit wider than this one. So, maybe I should go like this and make a mark. But we're having fun. I'm having fun. I hope you guys don't fall asleep. So, anytime playing on the lathe is fun. So, rotate around another one. I did get a pretty good chip there. Might not cover that one, so we will find out. Mark that hole.
To make that cove, you just use a narrower spindle gouge, right? To make that cove in the middle of the ribbon?
Right here, I just use my same bowl gouge. One of my favorite tools. I do a lot with the bowl gouge, probably more than a lot of people. I do have a couple spindle gouges. I only use them when I need a really fine little detail. You just get used to certain tools and working a certain way, and if it works for you, just like some people who use the Easy Wood carbide cutters, and that's all they use. Well, I got no problem with that. I'm not a tool snob. If they can do nice work and they're happy, why not? So again, nice little 45, just go in, roll around, nice and easy, try not to chip up my wood. Look for my pencil mark. this side a little bit deeper. Not too bad. Now I'm going to even out my ribbon. Take a look at how I am. I'm meeting pretty good in the middle. You can see where these are all crisscrossing. So we got one more to do to this point. So
What happens to all those holes?
we're going to cut them out.
Cut them out?
Yeah, because
Oh, you'll show us.
yeah, we're going to just take a parting tool to it. I forgot my chainsaw. Try to add a little bit of livelihood, yeah, to this. So, again, just give me some marks. So again, I'm going to, well, my right side is not as deep. When I look across the top, I can see the left side, the V-notch is deeper than the right side. So I'm going to make that a little deeper. There we go. Now this ribbon has gotten to be a little bit wider than the other ones. So, all right, and I ended up going a hair deeper, but we're sitting pretty good. I have any questions? Now, when we did our tips and tricks, I talked about buying the screwdriver set from Harbor Freight, $10 for the Phillips and flat tip. I've had this for about 20 years. I love this thing. I can do some really deep hollowing with this going in because it's cutting such a small area. Of course, after I get past here, then I gotta be careful because the handle's really light and short and it will start vibrating on me, but you take light cuts. So now I can look at this and I can say, you know what? I want to widen it. I want to deepen it. I could do anything with it. Or we could say, you know, it's not bad, and we can look at cutting it in half. So, anybody have?
That's where you get rid of the holes.
That's where we get rid of those holes. Does anybody have any questions so far? Not losing you? Anybody?
Have you made this out of really hardwood?
Oh, I love hard maple. I love cutting hard maple. It just,
I mean, it would take maybe a tad longer, but it would cut.
I don't think, for me, it doesn't seem to take longer.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
You got sharp tools. It just, the grain is so much nicer, you know, unless you're getting into knots or something. And each time I put these in, they're widening the hole. And even as I spin it, the pressure, because, you know, let's face it, pine is cheap, it's soft, and you buy a piece of 2x6 and glue some pieces together. You know, I thought it would be fine for the demonstration.
How small have you made these and how large? I mean, much larger than this doesn't become quite practical.
Well, Well, yeah, it's like anything. I mean, I like turning both big stuff and miniature stuff. I love turning little finials, very fine detail, see how long I can get them and how thin. And I love turning big bowls. The biggest I've done is probably about 16 inches by 30. And that was a pain to hollow. I mean, because I didn't have a hollowing system, so I put a pipe on my handle and tucked it under my arm and I kept just doing the drag cut to drag it out the inside. And it took a while. It was an exercise in patience, but, for me, those sort of things are fun. Now,
You varied the number of facets ever?
oh, yeah.
A good amount, but
I haven't, but you can. I mean, like as long as we do pairs, we can rotate that. So we could have 2, 3, 4, and we could do more. And it's just a matter of,
not 3.
no, I'm talking about axes. Yeah, so right now I have 4 axes. We could do 2, we could do 3, we could go back to 1, but that's not going to give us any detail. I mean, so, so now, parting tool. All right, who's good at catching?
Elliot,
So I do have 1/4-inch hole in there, so I need to remember that. I forgot once. But I'm sure we've all done stuff like that. So now I can see my center line. And since I got pine, I'm going to go straight in and just ease. Try not to get too much chipping. I really do think I forgot my little pull saw. Yep, I did. So, getting loose again. So we'll go a little smaller, we'll lower our speed, see what we can do here. Now, we're getting down pretty close. This is the one bow I'm not going to try to catch while it's still spinning. So, see if we can finish this up. Turn that over. Just about there. Probably twisted apart. So, now, of course, we did the parting tool. We got an ugly cut, but I want to curve this over anyway. So, grab my ruler maker. With this soft pine, I think it would be very hard to get a clean cut. And parting tool, well, and
To be honest, none of us are gonna make it out of pine.
yeah, right. So, I just had a really busy week, and I had the pine 2x laying around. So, here we go. Hopefully this one will work. Where's our knockout bar? Oh, you know what? Yeah, there's a bigger one right there. Man, I don't know somebody bent that.
There's another knockout right there.
Yeah. This one's a little bigger. Now, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn that down a little bit. Not bad. Oh, it's actually running halfway through. So, Laguna's rest, tool rest, leaves something to be desired.
Where's Devon? We actually use like a wrench on it.
Yeah.
A pipe. It's better than that.
All right, so now I'm just gonna take my time, try to get a nice clean cut, not getting in a hurry, just.
Why didn't you use the straight edge scraper again to do that?
Because this is all ingrained. So, and as soft as it is, it might want to grab it and rip it off of there. But if I give it enough negative rake, and I'm super light, but I can feel it just wanting to grab. I'm actually pushing down on it so it doesn't slide forward. Where So, even though this is pine, take some light cleanup cuts. It is. Yeah, this soft pine, it just keeps collapsing, so. So we can look at our curve, we can pick whatever amount we want, and we can get that all cleaned up. Now, I kind of jumped ahead. If I were going to do a lot of sanding on this, which the hard maple, you can cut it really clean and do just touch up by hand. Even with this pine, it's not bad. I do have one chip there, one there. I have a few little chips here, so I could cut that back. And I just want to keep rounding it, and I want to leave this flat where my finial is going to set over it. So I really thought this was going to take me longer, but, so we got just a couple cleanup cuts. If I were going to sand anywhere, it would be here, this end grain of this pine. So, yeah, it's pretty dusty. I didn't bring the Windex, and I'm all the way over here, so even if that were to break off, I'm not worried about it coming at me. Most of the time, I try to set a good example and wear it. But the truth is, if I have my shatterproof lenses on, most of my issues are getting dust in my mouth and wood chips in my mouth and my nose. So now, let's just go ahead and pass that around. So there was the one on the little stem. So if you're making something like a finial to go on a clock, a armoire, or whatever, you have the piece you need, you have one left over. So whatever you do with these and whatever design you use, and you can see the difference in the ribbons and the fins and size, it's more about the technique and the process.
How do you, if you're hollowing it, how do you mount it? How do you glue it?
Same way.
If you look inside,
Oh, I see.
before I started, I knew I was going to mount it like this, so I went ahead and drilled a 1/4-inch hole all the way through.
Okay.
And if you're worried, like if I was going with a much bigger one, I probably wouldn't, because you have this big surface up here. But if I was going bigger, then you might make that center hole. So this is just popped into the 1/4-inch hole. This is just popped into there.
Let me ask it a different way. How large of these or how small of these have you made?
Of this,
Yeah.
the biggest one is only a little bit bigger than this.
Because it's no
And-
longer useful. It gets-
Well, because then I think it just, this is designed to set up high.
Right.
So you don't even see that top. It was off a big old antique clock. I like looking at museums and old furniture. And we went to Meriwether Post Pavilion, and there were some details in the cuts on the floor. So I was down on my hands and knees looking at it, and a security guard come up asking me if I was okay. And my wife's like, ignore him. He does that all the time, So I like seeing how things were made. When the Woodwright was on, one of my favorite shows, the history, the traditions, the looking back at that, I would have loved to bring in a table that I made about 6-8 months ago. Big turn legs, just all this detail. A friend of ours wanted a garden table, and she had a picture from an old it was a picture in a magazine. They actually took a picture of the picture, and it was a antique French garden table, and it had these really ornate legs, and she just fell in love with that and said, "Can you make that?" And so I built her a garden table resembling that design the best I could see off a little picture out of a magazine. So we went, wow. I really thought this might take longer, and if I was doing templates and measurements and everything else, it probably would have easily doubled the time. But if you spin that around, you look, you can find some minor variances, but it's close enough. So anything you do, you have to set your expectations and your goals for what you're going to do with it, how you're going to present it. Is it going to go into some museum or an art show, or you're going to have people, looking at it under lights, or like tonight, I just thought it would be fun, just kind of play, make a pile of dust, and use our paper-made tape measure wherever it went. Yeah, so.
That was good, yeah. I mean, that looks almost like a sea urchin. You could probably mount that on the blade engraver and make a little dust on it.
Yeah.
Now, that smaller one, from my angle, it looks like the blades are a little bit slanted, like pulling straight down.
They're right. They're curved in more like a V.
If you hold it north and south, the blades will just look like they're going at an angle a little bit. Maybe that was because it was supposed to offset, or is there some?
It is. It is. If I set it down, these two are higher than these over here. So that's where, breaking out the. Yeah. I have about 10 different pairs of calipers, and I use them quite a bit when I'm trying to get more precision. But I thought with this much repetition that it might be boring if I sit here for, a whole nother half an hour just trying to get them all uniform.
And then we've been upset when you didn't finish.
Yeah. Well, I could just blame it on show and tell. So.
Thank you. So you first did this based on seeing something on this thing on top, and I mean, is anybody else?
Oh yeah. David was telling me about, he saw a guy that made a bow like this, but he used 3 axes, so he had 6 sides of the bow, and then cut it in half.
The 6-sided faceted bowl. That's what I was wondering. So how would you make it so that you could have? Because the way he did it is he did one big one, and then he just cut it in half.
Right. So you notice this one, the hose